I'm DJ Psyched, and you're watching the Get Psyched YouTube channel. Let's get psyched about YouTube. I'm Leeann Diaz, and today we're talking about mental block. This is episode 2 of the blog series, so if you want to read the blog post that this was written about, you can go to the link in my description. But today, I want to scratch the surface on mental block, because I think there's a lot of reason mental block happens, but I think that this one thing is kind of foundational, right? There's 2 elements that are very foundational to mental block and overcoming it, and I think that's both of those elements come from influence. What we let influence is kind of like what we become, right? And this is something I'm learning more and more every day, which is why I wanted to make a blog post on it, because I think that I'm trying to make this switch in my life, and I haven't fully yet, but writing it down and really understanding it, I think is helping me to want to do it more. So in my blog post, I say that there's 2 versions of Leeann, right? And I'm going to give you real versions of Leeann that have actually existed. Back in college, way back when, I was thoroughly addicted to YouTube. When I say that, I mean to an extent that was just beyond my, comprehension. I'm dog sitting right now. All right, now I have a nervous dog in my lap, and I'm going to continue. So way back when in college, I was really, really addicted to YouTube to the point where I was watching it 24/7. Like if I wasn't in class, and sometimes even when I was in class, but if I wasn't in class, I was watching YouTube. On the way to class, I'd be watching it on my phone. In the shower, I'd be watching it on my phone. Like I watched it while I was cooking food. I watched it while I ate. Like every waking moment that I could be on YouTube, I was. And that was not good for my creating life. It came down to the point where I wasn't creating anything. I wasn't practicing any of my hobbies. I was just watching YouTube. But then, one night, I was just chilling, and I saw a video by Matt Diavella on procrastination. And that video really sparked something in me. As soon as I started watching it, he said something about, some people will watch this video and not do anything about it. I don't know. But he said something halfway through that made me turn the video off and go to bed. And the next day, I decided not to watch YouTube first thing in the morning. And when I did that, something crazy happened. When I stopped watching a bunch of random YouTube videos. By the way, the videos I was watching, they weren't art tutorials or self-growth. They were the most random, crazy stuff I could find on the internet. And it just wasn't influencing my life in a good way. But when I stopped doing that and stopped watching so much YouTube and started being very intentional about the content I was watching, actually watching things that were about the hobbies that I had, started watching music type videos, started watching Matt Diavella's videos and seeing his tips, and intentionally watching YouTube, I started to grow. So those 2 different versions of Leeann, right? They were from influence. I was influenced by watching a bunch of videos that gave me a dopamine high that just had me instantly gratified, so I wanted to keep going back to that. But then there was the Leeann who was if I cut back on the instant gratification, I could have long-term gratification. And I started my Leeann Has a Plan YouTube channel, an old channel that has more subscribers than this one, and I just started making these covers, short really covers on YouTube with me playing guitar and bass. So basically, to cut it down, because I really do have to go to work and my little friend here is very nervous, this tip number 1 is to surround yourself with content and influencers online that is intentional and meaningful, stuff that's going to influence you positively towards the stuff you want to do. Because if you're watching a bunch of stuff that's just instantly gratifying and doesn't actually help you, you're going to be driven towards that kind of material and you're not really going to feel inspired to create. But if you're driven towards material that's more long-term gratification, things that'll teach you, things that are there to help you grow, you'll find yourself more on that route of doing things that you want to be doing. My tip number 2 is just like stuff can influence you, people can, did I say that right? Influence you? People can influence you. I've learned this so much because in college, I was surrounded by people who really didn't have the same mindset I did as far as what they wanted to do with their lives, and that kind of held me back. I didn't know a lot of independent creators. I didn't know a lot of people who wanted to fight the normal way of life. A lot of people I knew, and there's nothing wrong with it, they kind of just wanted to stick with the routine, go to school, get a job, that's that. And I know a lot of people had more to them, but I didn't know a lot of people who were actually breaking the way and trying to do something very different. And when I started meeting people like that, people who were yeah, I write books too, I make videos too, I do this too, I want to do something myself too, it just inspired me to start creating so much more, because I was wow, here's my friends. I have 3 really close friends to me who all in some way create content that's very similar to the way I like to create, or at least we support each other, even though we create very different things. And it just helps me feel so much better. It motivates me. It got me on a track and a schedule. And the best part about it is you learn from each other. When you're surrounded by like-minded people, you learn some very relevant information. If I was just surrounded by people who don't create content, although, yes, I love them and they impact my lives in so many other ways, I wouldn't be able to learn the things I do about content creation, about having a consistent schedule, about, you know, we talk about things even like social media platforms, like how should we post? Like, is it like too personal, too businessy? What do you think of my page? Like, we can give each other advice and criticism and look at each other's stuff from a lens that's very different from what other people could give us. So there's my 2 tips. Surround yourself with content that's very meaningful, and surround yourself with people who are like-minded. And that'll help with your mental block. It's like a foundation, right? You have meaningful content and you have people who are around you that are like-minded. All of a sudden, this very small shift in your life, what you focus on doing around your work or school hours, it makes this huge difference in your life to where you are more motivated, you feel inspired, and all of a sudden, it's a little easier to get yourself out of that mental block. So that's it for today's video. If you want to check out the full blog, it's linked in the description. I thank you so much for watching, and I hope that I can get out those whatever my neighbor's doing sounds out the background in editing. But I have to get off to work now. So until next time, stay psyched.